if you are here, hopefully you are here for Meeting Our Needs, using Kentucky Farms Feed Me virtual field trips to meet primary standards in social studies. And I didn't ask how to say your last name, but it
Elwell.
Senator Jennifer Elwell, which is what I was going to guess. So again, I'll be monitoring the chat and letting you know if there are any questions over there, and I'm eager to hear more about this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present this fabulous program to you all. It's been a long time in the making, and this is kind of a reboot for this program, this virtual field trip series. And my name's, again, Jennifer Elwell. I am the Executive Director of the Kentucky Agriculture and Environment in the Classroom. Prior to that, I worked for the Kentucky Corn Growers for about 17 years, and I was in charge of communications and education. And that's when we actually started this virtual field trip program. And it kind of was born after we spoke with teachers who were participating in the Kentucky Farm Bureau regional teacher workshops. If any of you have had that opportunity, that's something they've been doing for many years each summer. And I had the opportunity to talk with the teacher participants, and they told me that, it was just harder and harder to take a field trip, especially, farm field trips are pretty popular, especially with the younger grades, the primary grades. And they just said that it was getting harder to be able to do that. So the virtual field trip was born. We started the process, and we started marketing the first round of virtual field trips in 2012. And then over the year, it's been very popular. They've been used K through 12. Of course, we get, most of our use in the elementary grades. And they've just been a great addition to a lot of classrooms because they do meet a lot of academic standards, and it provides a fun supplemental tool for teachers when talking about, Kentucky farms and just Kentucky in general, why farmers are important, that type of thing. But we decided to revamp the videos. We wanted to add a few more. Technology was a little better, and we worked with Kentucky Farm Bureau to create 10 new virtual field trips, and we finished those up earlier this year, and they couldn't have come at a better time, obviously, with everyone's need for more virtual type lessons for NTI, and that situation kind of continues. So we are just really happy that we're able to provide this. And since the new social studies standards were shared not too long ago, and then also the career studies that came out this summer, I'm like, okay, this is our target, because we are hitting so many of these standards with this program. So I'm going to go on and share my screen. And if it looks a little fuzzy, it shouldn't in the beginning. I just want to be able to share a video with you all, and then I may switch back to make sure that it's going to look the best. Can you all see the screen okay? It says virtual learning. Okay, great. So I did kind of go through, about the program. Another thing I want to mention is that we have a passport program that goes along with this that we launched originally. So if teachers were willing to show the virtual field trip series in its entirety, and they could do that once a week over time, they could do it once a month, or within a couple weeks, just depending on what worked best for the classroom. And then we provided a passport that they could fill out. And then after that, we worked to develop some coordinating curriculum that goes with each video that relates to even more standards in all the different subject areas. And then, we started work on the new series in 2018 and are happy to be able to provide that this year. But Farm Bureau is an award-winning studio, and this time around we used a city kid, Kylie. She lives in Louisville. She's a cheerleader, and she has no connection to the farm other than the fact that her father, works for Kentucky Farm Bureau Studios as their videographer. but her reactions are so genuine because she doesn't understand fully the impact that our farmers have on our communities. And, that's really the number one takeaway is, how important our farmers are to our local communities. These are some examples of our field trips. So we go to the Kentucky State Fair, to a pig show, and then a Kentucky pig farm. We visit a Kentucky Corn Farm and Research Center, and they talk about the science behind growing corn. We visit a beef cattle farm, a soybean farm, a dairy farm, which is really popular if anybody's ever been to Cheney's Dairy Barn in Bowling Green. That is a great place to visit because in addition to having great ice cream, it is a super educational place, and a lot of school kids visit there each year. We visit a vegetable farm, poultry farm, an apple orchard, and then the biggest change or biggest addition for this round of videos was including a horse video. So we visit the horse park. When we have shared all of these on social media over the last several months, the horse park video has been the most popular as far as views have gone, because a lot of people love learning about horses. And that's what Kentucky is known for, at least among the general public when it comes to farms and agriculture. And then we also visit a wheat farm. I am going to share one of our videos. This is our soybean video where Callie visits a soybean farm in Trigg County. This gentleman, the farmer, Barry Alexander, does such a great job explaining the process of growing and harvesting the soybeans and then what those products are used for.
Hi, I'm Kylie. Today we're in Western Kentucky to visit Mr. Alexander of Cundiff Farms. One of the crops he grows is soybeans. I'm excited to learn about how they're produced and how we use them. Hi, Mr. Alexander. Could you tell us a little bit about Cundiff Farms?
Sure can. We're a little over 13,000 acre farm. We raise soybeans, corn, wheat, and dark fire tobacco and have a cattle operation.
How do you plant and harvest your soybeans?
Well, we strictly no-till our soybeans. No-till farming is where we don't do any tillage to the soil. It's good for preventing soil erosion and it's good for overall soil health. So we'll plant the crop using a planter that plants in the ground that's not been tilled. We will plant our early beans starting sometime around the 1st of April, and then we'll double crop beans behind our wheat. Double cropping is where we grow 2 crops in one season on the same acre. We'll plant the wheat in the fall, grow it through the winter, harvest in June, and then plant soybeans behind it. We'll grow those through the season and start harvesting sometime in the middle of September and harvest through the fall until the end of October. So we're actually pulling 2 crops off that same acre every year.
What are soybeans used for?
2 of the primary uses of soybeans are going to be soybean oil and soybean meal. Soybean meal is going to be used to feed livestock such as chickens, cows, dairy cows, and pigs. The oil is used to make a lot of different products. Some of them are going to be vegetable oils, biodiesel, pretty much anything you use petroleum oil for, you can use soybean oil.
Wow, so soybeans can be used to power engines and nourish livestock, as well as ourselves. They can also be used to make other items, such as candles, cleaning products, and crayons. I didn't know soybeans could be used in so many ways. Mr. Alexander took me around his farm to see how soybeans are produced. My favorite part was getting to ride in the combine. Tell me a little bit about the combine.
Well, the combine is used to harvest the grain. The grain goes in the front of the combine, goes through the cleaning system, and then into the grain tank to the back. From the grain tank, we put it into a grain cart on a tractor, and then it sends it to the grain system through a semi.
It looks a lot like a car in here.
It's a lot like a car. You have the same stuff in here that you have in your car. You've got brakes, you've got steering wheel, turn signals, even a horn. The thing that this has that your car doesn't have is this computer system here that tells you everything that's going on with the machine, with the crop that you're harvesting, and also maps it so we can go back later and look and see what parts of the field made better crop than others. Let's go take it for a spin. You want to steer it?
Sure.
It's only $400,000. per combine usually harvest about 125 acres a day, depending upon what the moisture is as to how quick we can actually go through that crop. The beans have to be dried down to about 12.5% to store into the bins and for sale.
Why do they need to be dry?
The soybeans need to be dry so that they store better. If they're above 12.5%, you may get mold or damage to the bean once they're in the bins.
Soybeans are one of the most popular crops in Kentucky, and you can see why. They are super versatile. The next time I see a field of soybeans, I'll know they're an important part of food, fuel, and products we use every day. I'm so excited I got to meet Kentucky farmer Mr. Barry Alexander.
So there's one example of one of the field trips, and there are 10 of them. We feel that they align so well to the career studies, financial literacy, and also social studies. And I am going to actually, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to reshare so our text can look a little better. Because I know once we get on the Google Drive, it gets pretty small. Let's see. So you have an opportunity as a participant in this to request these passports for this program if you choose to. So we have, this is on the left, this is our primary version of our passport. It is more of a coloring book type booklet. He said we provide these printed. If you are not in a NTI situation that you can hand to your kids, you can actually get them to your kids also. But it is a coloring page and it has information on each of the different videos, and we place them in an order that we feel makes the most sense to show the videos, just because of timing of the year. Of course, you can show them in any order that you would like. But we even try to bring some standards into this booklet as well. And we know that our, kindergartners and first graders may not be reading this, but definitely teachers and parents can help share this information with them. So that's an example of the primary book. However, depending on your students, we also have a reading, writing heavy passport, and I shared this with a few of our second grade teachers to ask them if they feel this would be more appropriate for their classroom, and a few said, oh yeah, we would use that one. Actually, I had a few that said they might want both. But this one is where they would watch the video and then answer some questions. And it does follow the, what do you know? What's something that you learned? What would you still like to know? And then, where would you find that information? So each of the pages are aligned in that manner. And then we also try to provide them another writing prompt, which may be, an opinion statement, informational statement, something of that nature. So on the soybean one, we actually asked them to write a fun phrase about soybeans. So that's more of a creative nature. And aligning to the career studies, it also kind of gives them a little glimpse of things that a professional might do. And, as far as the career studies go, this aligns really well with those standards as well, especially in the primary grades, because there's a lot of overlap when we talk about what careers are in our community, what are our community needs, how do we, fulfill them, what people provide those needs in our communities. So we're hitting a lot of career and social studies standards within kindergarten and first grade for sure. And then also, you know, getting into second and third grade as well. But you have the opportunity to request these passports, and I'll show you where to do that here in a little bit. For NTI, we have tried to produce as much Google-ready activities and lessons as we can. So in addition to some lessons, all of our videos are within a Google Drive. All of our coordinating curriculum is in a Google Drive, and we will provide you access to that as well. The folder that you all have access to for this, we have a link within the About document that you can access any of this, or if you would like me to email that to you, I can do that as well. So this is the digital version of the passport, and it is set up as a Google Slide document, and each of the videos are within this document, so they can actually watch them using this. And then you would just, as the teacher, you all would need to copy this into your Google Drive. And then once you do that, it can be manipulated, and then you can share it with your students as an assignment. So we have a activity that talks about agriculture where they live, and I'll show you the link where you can actually find all of this information for every single county in Kentucky. Then you might ask them the next day or the next week to, you know, watch the pig video and complete the pig page. And then this digital document, you know, continues on that way. And then we've got these text boxes where they can actually type in their answers for that. And then you are allowed to modify anything that we have. If you only want to send them one field trip video and one page out of here as an assignment, you know, per week, you are welcome to do that. So I'm actually going to show you our Google Drive that you all will have access to. So here we have kind of about the program, which you may have already seen because it was in the folder that we had previously. All of our videos can be found in this folder, and these are MP4 formats that you could share with your students. We have the new field trips, which we're talking about today. And then we also have copies of the old field trips if you're interested in, you know, having them kind of compare. There might be a little different information on some of these. One of the things that we weren't able to do this time on the poultry video is the first round we actually kind of compared two different farms. A farm that raised chickens and turkeys for local customers, as opposed to a farmer that grows chickens for a commercial restaurant. And they got to, you know, compare and contrast the things that, you know, were the same with operations, what was different, in a Venn diagram. So that was, you know, that might be something that you want to check out to see, you know, some of the differences in these videos. But again, we also have the videos embedded in a lot of these Google documents as well. And they're also available on YouTube. You can see the YouTube links in our website page, which you all will, here is our website. And we have links to all of this in the documentation, so you don't need to remember them. But teachkyag.org, KY Farms Feed Me, or you can just type in kyfarmsfeedme.org and it will pull up the same website. So there's lots of ways that you have access to all of this information. This is where you will request the passports that I talked about earlier. And since as part of joining this this webinar during this session, we are also providing all of our teacher participants a soybean germination kit to get in the science standard to learn about plant life cycles. So we have all the supplies needed for students to watch a soybean seed germinate. We also have a book called Henry Ford Creates a Car that you could read to your student. And thanks to the pork producers, we have a fun math activity that they can create a pig using geometric shapes, and that aligns really well with kindergarten math standards because they're learning their shapes. They have to count sides and vertices, and then they're being creative as well. But that's a fun activity for people of all different grade levels. And then on this web page, we have everything linked. So again, there's a lot of different ways you can see this information. If you click on one of these video links, you're going to see the main ideas. And I think we just got a little lag here. There is the YouTube link to the video. You can watch it directly on the screen. We've got background information. Here are the links to our Google Classroom activities, and we have a note in here that you must save a copy to your own Google Drive to be able to manipulate those and share those with your students. And then what I wanted to share with you all are these lesson plans by grade that I feel is very helpful. And I'm actually going to go back to our Google Drive to share those with you. So under Google Lesson Docs, we have a plan session, and we have links to ways to use this program with each of the different grades. So if you click on kindergarten, I've looked at, I've studied all the standards for each of the different grades to find the best way to utilize this program, and we give suggestions on how you might use this in your classroom for each grade. So as kindergarten goes, we suggest that you might want to spend some time to talk about Kentucky farms, and as kind of a pre-assessment, they could do this activity, which things I may see on a Kentucky farm. And there's pictures down there at the bottom, and they can move those pictures into the correct box. They could do this with their parents. You could do this on a Zoom call, which I think would be a lot of fun. And they can, interact and tell you what needs to go in the different boxes. And I just undo to get to put that back the way it was. And then you could also do this at the end as well. We have some books that align to kind of get the program started, and those are all linked. We actually have a classroom program where we provide a lot of these books to our teachers that are part of our program. And those are sponsored by local farm organizations such as the farm bureaus and the conservation districts. And then we also suggest, which is going to meet one of the kindergarten standards, have the students try the needs or wants activity, which kind of prepares them for, watching these videos. What are the things that we need to live? What things, are just wants? And, this area of this improves life, that's kind of the area where you might have the most interesting discussions, but this would also make a really fun Zoom activity where you can talk about these things. Ask the students what are the things that they may need to live, and what just makes life fun. But it's all wonderful to hear their reasons for where each of these things need to go. But obviously, we're really focusing on the food part of this, which is critical to our survival, and how the farmers in our community provide this critical need. And we get to have conversations. Well, what if we didn't have farmers? And then you get, into some of the the standards for the older primary students, then you start talking about, well, what can't they make in Kentucky, and why is it important that we can trade with other states and other communities? We don't produce bananas here in Kentucky, but we are able to get them from places that do. We've got links to the passport, the field trip videos, and then once they get into each of the different field trips, you can choose which ones that you show. If there is a direct grade level standard connection, I have put that in there. So there is quite a bit of kindergarten science in these videos as well. And you all can take a look at that. So that horse video, we can talk about, what is needed to provide for a horse, and that aligns with, life science for kindergarten. And then also we've got some, fun, grade appropriate math activities. So here's an example of a counting exercise that, the kindergartner may have to do. So they have to match the horse with the number to the number of apples in the stall. So, this is 1, and they'll have to move that right into there. So these are all interactive Google activities. Watching my son do NTI, I think if he was able to do it on the screen, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, there was more challenge if he had to print something out. We are very well equipped to do that here at this house, but this allows them to do a lot of these activities actually on their computer with a little bit of assistance from mom or dad or the teacher. And then also, we have, meeting some additional assessments and standards, questions you can ask to meet these standards. So for kindergarten social studies, you can ask students why we need farmers, what would happen if we did not have farmers, and that meets, this standard. We can ask students how food gets from farm to their tables. We have an activity that goes along with that. I realize I need to put some more links in here. But all of our learning activities, all of our plans, so here's all of our planning documents for each grade. All of our Google lessons can be found in this green folder, the Learn folder. And I actually have a separate folder just for social studies. So this is another fun activity that you could do on a Zoom call. You could use it in the beginning of the unit. You can do it at the end as an assessment. But where do we get the food that we need? Hopefully they've learned that it comes from a farm. But so many kids say, where does milk come from? Well, it comes from the grocery store. Well, where did it come from before that? And they have to make the connections of the animals or the plants, that the foods they eat every day, where do they come from? And then you can say, well, obviously these animals and plants are raised and cared for by farmers, which is a vital part of our community. I also wanted to show you in this field trip document, so something else that I did to try to help you all figure out the best way to use these lessons. So I pulled out all of the career study and social studies for each grade, and kind of shared some questions and links to the different items that will help teach these different standards. So in kindergarten social studies, identify places and communities that provide goods and services. Obviously, the entire field trip series could be used to help answer that question. And that goes along with that linking farm to table. Where do we get our food? Groceries and restaurants depend on farms and farmers. Many other products are made with farm-produced ingredients. differentiate between needs and wants. I showed you that needs and wants activity, and that can be brought up in each of the videos. Explain how various jobs affect communities. And then here are some questions that you could ask. What are the jobs of a farmer? Why do we need farmers? What would happen if we didn't have farmers in our community? And it goes on from there. So each standard, if there is a way that we can connect to that through this program, we've provided either some questions or some links to the different activities to be able to do that. And if there's a way that we can improve on or add to this, we are, trying to figure out what those needs are to provide more of these things. Obviously, there are other industries that in Kentucky, other jobs that you also need to touch on, but farming is dependent upon all of those other jobs in the community. So they are also dependent on other services to provide the food that we need. And those are connections that you can make with each of these videos. How does the cattle farmer provide hay for their cattle? They may grow it, or they may have to rely on another farmer to do that for them. What types of products do they need to run their tractors? They rely on the fuel industry to do that. First grade, again, just taking the different standards and then making connections within this program. Also, for our social studies in first grade, you all are focusing pretty heavily on Kentucky. I know in the past that really happened in the fourth grade, but now it's been moved primarily to first grade. I know there's some Kentucky information that comes throughout the standards, but a lot of it is, you're going to see that in first grade now. So we have another complete lesson that you could pair with this program called My Kentucky Home Provides What I Need. And I'm going to show you that folder. So you can click on this primary lesson here, and I have provided several presentations that you can show your students. So this is a fun kind of icebreaker activity when starting your unit on Kentucky. We're going to look at different photos and try to guess if they're part of Kentucky landscapes. Some of your students may not have the opportunity to travel. They may not have been out of the state to, go on a vacation to the beach or, out west. And some students may not have even been out of their county. So we provide some photos. Obviously, this is an iconic Kentucky photo, even though it is in, the Lexington area. But when you hear Kentucky, if you're not from Kentucky, this is what a lot of people think of. So this could be a fun Zoom activity as well to go through these. And on the next slide, we provide the key. There's a check mark if it is from Kentucky, and we provide some geography to show where that is located within the Commonwealth. But then here's the next photo. Is that in Kentucky? No, it's not. Even though there are farmers that raise bison, there are state parks with bison. That is not a typical Kentucky scene, especially with these types of mountains in the background. So this is from Yellowstone. And then here are the Cumberland Falls. Shows you where that is. I got to visit there not too long ago. Hopefully we never see this in Kentucky. So we also have pictures from different parts of the world. Anybody that's from the Muhlenberg County area in Western Kentucky may argue that this could be Kentucky, but this is actually the Everglades in Florida. Here in Kentucky, we have a lot more trees in the background. This is actually in Nelson County. That's Gethsemane Abbey there in the background. Here's an image of Arizona. And then Kentucky is known for having a lot of hardwood forests, actually over the entire state, but it's concentrated mostly in eastern Kentucky and then around the Knobs area. And then here is another image of eastern Kentucky. Here's an orange grove in California, and you might also see that in Texas and Florida. And then here's a nice winter picture of those white picket fences that we see a lot of. You can talk about the climate, and then here's a picture of Maine. And there's a key. So that's just kind of a fun icebreaker. You know, we are, since we're not only talking about agriculture, we're talking about the environment. So, you know, we feel that we can provide a lot of resources for our teachers in that regard. And when it comes to agriculture, we could not produce the things that we do if it were not for our natural resources that we have here in Kentucky. So this is a fun little presentation that focuses on what makes Kentucky unique, how we're able to produce the food and animals that we are. And you could kind of go through this with your students in first grade, and also if, you know, when there's some historical perspective lessons in the other grades. But, you know, the settlers came here and they saw that the land was good. We have a lot of trees, we have a lot of water, we have a lot of meadowlands. And we talk about the climate here in Kentucky, the water. I don't know if you all are aware, but we have more rivers and streams that you could actually travel on than any other state in the United States except Alaska. And Alaska is pretty huge. So Kentucky is not lacking in water, for sure. And that actually provides a lot of opportunities for our farmers and industry here. I really love this map. This is what Kentucky may have looked like several hundred years ago, before people started heavily settling the area. So it's mostly forest and woodland. And then these areas in yellow are wetlands. And then here in the gray, the beige, those were prairie lands. And it really, those types of things really determine where people settled and then what types of industries started in those areas. Talk about the history of the native peoples. You know, they were hunting, the abundance of animals that were here in this area. They were growing crops like corn and beans and squash and tobacco. The first early settlers came to Kentucky and they grew crops and raised livestock for food. They were actually encouraged to grow hemp and tobacco because those crops were heavily demanded in Europe. They made a lot of naval rope out of hemp. And that was something that was needed. They ran out of those resources in England, and you know, they needed to have new resources for those things. And then, you know, here's a map of what Kentucky looks like today, and it's much different than it was 200 years ago. So you can see the urbanized areas. A lot of our woodland areas have been changed over to either pasture or cropland. A lot of our forested, the heavily forested areas are relatively untouched, just because that land is not ideal for larger farming operations, because it's very hilly, it's mountainous, and it's just not easy to farm that land. So this provides a good snapshot of how Kentucky has changed over the years. This might be really good for your older grades, but we wanted to have you as much background information as possible, and you are welcome to make modifications to any of these things for your use. We talk about the energy in Kentucky. So again, meeting those social studies standards of talking about what things are available in Kentucky that makes providing for our needs possible. These are the counties that we have most of our coal production. We have a lot of oil and natural gas here in Kentucky. And because of this, we have relatively inexpensive energy prices here. And it makes it nice for companies that need those resources to come and put their plants here. That's why we have a lot of auto manufacturers. Kentucky is also known for having a very robust forestry industry. This is where we've got 50% or more of the land is in forests. Timber is a huge industry. We actually grow a lot of, produce a lot of paper here in Kentucky because of our forests. And it's interesting to know that most of the time, forests are not grown for paper. They go and pull out the trees that are not going to be suitable for the timber industry, and it actually makes the forest healthier when they pull those trees out for paper. And then here are the top crops and animals from Kentucky. I know when my son was in 4th grade and they were talking about Kentucky, one of the things we had an argument about was cotton. And I think teachers, 50 years ago, there probably was some cotton grown in Kentucky, but no longer. Actually, the last census showed 0 farms growing any type of commercial cotton. So things have changed over the years. Kentucky, our top 2 income earners for agriculture are poultry and horses. And then we've got soybeans and corn, cattle. Those are our top 5 agricultural products here in Kentucky. And then also tobacco is still important, hay and wheat. And then we also have a lot of mining. We talked about the coal and natural gas, but we actually have a lot of aluminum that is produced here in Kentucky, as well as rocks and ore minerals are mined here and sold. Now, I talked earlier, so in the passport where we want to learn about our county, you can see each of the county data, and we compiled these using the 2017 agricultural census. So this is the latest data we have. What is your county, Cassie? I know we're going to look it up.
I live in Jefferson, but if you want where I'm originally from, it's Marshall, which would probably have more going on farm-wise.
Yes, so we're gonna click on Marshall County, and they are alphabetical. So it tells us that in 2017 there were about 700 farms there. It shows where in the state it's located, how many acres are dedicated to farms, what percentage of how is the land used of that farmland. So most of it is cropland, so you're going to have a lot of corn, soybeans grown there. The value of the ag products sold, where it ranks as far as income from agriculture out of 120, and then it provides some statistics on sales of the different products. And if it's a 0, there's probably 0 dairies in Marshall County, but if it says not reported, that just means that there weren't enough farmers to justify reporting that number, because they don't want to disclose too much information about 1 or 2 farmers. And then each of the counties, we have provided a kind of a farm or food profile of things happening in the county. So West Kentucky Aquaponics is located in Marshall County, and they are growing fish aquaponically, and it explains how that works. And then here's another farm that's located in Benton, Kentucky, and they, talk about what they grow as well. So we try to make local connections to each of the farms so they understand what's going on in their community. All right, I know we're about out of time, so I want to go back to I have so many things opened up here. I showed you the Google Drive. There's so much in there that we can't even get to all of it. I just encourage you to check that out and see what's all in there. You are welcome to ask me as many questions as possible on how to best use these. I also wanted to share that the county extension agent, so a lot of schools utilize their county extension, their 4-H agents, to come and help teach about different agricultural topics, life skill topics, community type topics. They utilize those 4-H agents to do that. Typically not in the primary grades, but that is also an opportunity. They have also been trained in using all of these farm field trips. If you would like to utilize that resource, because they know a lot about agriculture in their communities. Let's see. So in the folder that you have access to, there is an About Kentucky Farms document. I'm going to actually go to that folder. If you click on that, this link right here will take you to our main drive with all of the virtual field trips, all of the activities that you all can check out. And then again, I wanted to remind you that you can go to our webpage, which is also linked in that document, and you can click on this, running slow, and just fill out your name and address, and you can request those passports. You can have both the coloring and the written version if you would like. Let us know how many students you need those for. And then we'll also send you the other goodies that we talked about, the soybean germination necklace kit, the book, and the geometric shapes for creating a pig activity. So we will send you all of those.
We did have a question in the chat about universities having access for their social studies methods courses for future elementary teachers.
We will definitely look into providing that for those teachers. We have put on pre-service teacher workshops in the past where we have shared a lot of all of our lessons and resources that we have. So I can definitely work with the education schools and make sure that they have these things in the future. But we're not stingy with any of this. So we have had a lot of great sponsors with this program. So all of our farm community has invested into this program, and we want it to be used as much as possible. We feel that obviously food is something that we all require, we all need. So it's an easy connection to make with students, because it's something that they deal with every single day. Do we have any more questions?
I haven't seen any others in the chat.
Are they allowed to unmute themselves and make comments?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, if there's anyone that believes this is going to be a worthwhile tool for you, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And if there's something else you might need, just with having 50 minutes, I can't show you every single Google activity that we have, but there's so many to choose from. One other note I'd like to make, because this is new, I feel it could be used for so many grades this first year. And kids aren't going to get it every single year. I think that is kind of one thing that I worry about, that you have a lot of teachers in the same school, they're like, ooh, I'm going to use this too. They may get tired of it, but you could have a team meeting ahead of time and talk about which specific videos or which activities that you may want to hit at each grade, and just kind of space them out a little bit, because some of the virtual field trips may work better for other standards as far as this science goes. So you could kind of pick and choose which ones you're going to use for each grade. Well, thank you all so much for attending. I was glad for this opportunity. I hope, this provided you with, some new tools that you can use. I encourage you to check out everything that we have on our website. We have lots more than just social studies, for sure.